others' need above what I need, putting others' concerns above my concerns, giving something that's going to help them. And we recognize that there's really three parts to a family. God the Father is in the church. God the Father provides, protects, He corrects, and He loves. So God has these four roles that He's doing, but then Jesus serves as our elder brother. I didn't really like that. I mean, it's hard for me to think of Christ in that way, but in truth, He is. He really is, and He's faithful. So turn over to Hebrews chapter 3. Hebrews chapter 3, verses 5 through 6. And it says, Moses was faithful as a servant in all God's house, testifying to what would be said in the future. Verse 6, but Christ is faithful as a son over God's house, and we are His house. I'm going to say that again. We are His house. But let's not skip the next word. One key word, if. If we hold on to our courage and the hope of which we boast. So, Christ is faithful, but we got to do something, right? It says if. Let's never forget that there's action, there's work, there's growth that we have to have as children of God. And then lastly, we are God's children. We were added to the family according to Acts chapter 2. Those who were baptized into Christ were raised to walk in newness of life. And the Lord added to the church daily those who are being saved. So if we've obeyed the gospel through baptism, the Lord has added us to the church. And so we have to nurture and cherish and love and uplift those that are around us. And I have to ask the question, though. So sometimes, everybody does it. We get in our groups, we get in our routines. I'm going to come and I'm going to sit on my pew. It should have my name on it, right? It should. I mean, some folks actually have their name on the pew. They've scratched it. But they get in routines. They get in, I'm going to call it ruts. They get in a rut. Like the exercise we had earlier, introducing yourself to someone you don't know. If we take the time to ask for names and things like that, and it might be that their members here, but you can't call their name. Don't be embarrassed by that. Don't be embarrassed. Just say, "Hey, I can't remember your name. Cecilia, right?" No. But you're going to say, "Oh, it's close enough."
I probably would.
Yeah, I mean, who gets Cecily? Cecily. It's hard. But anyway, I forgot what I was saying. I just thought of that. That's funny. All right. Ultimately, it comes down to this. We have to nurture, uplift, and encourage one another. That is our role. It's not about coming to worship. We are worshiping God. That is our primary focus. Sometimes we get caught. We forget about what the primary focus is, which is God. But we have to remember we have a secondary purpose, and that secondary purpose is for each one of you. My responsibility is to each one of you. Your responsibility is to the person sitting beside you, in front of you, behind you, across the other side of the auditorium. Let's never forget that we have responsibilities as Christians. Brian?
That's one reason I like the way the building was developed here, because we have to go out one door. And so even if you're sitting over here most of the time, you have a pretty good chance of running into someone. We worship at a church I worship church in Lexington that had about 6 doors to get out. And people will just scatter. So, I mean, just something simple like that.
Yep.
So you want to have a chance to meet people, because you got to go to that door.
And it does take effort. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard because some folks don't talk. We all know folks that just don't talk. You can try to talk to them, and it's like trying to just pull something out of them. But you know what? If they don't want to give, you can't pull it out of them. But the effort of saying, "Hey, I want to get to know you. I want to be your brother. I want to be your sister." That goes so far. That's encouragement. That's being devoted to one another. All right. And the last thing I'll say on the recap went longer than I thought, always does. Within the New Testament, the term brother or brethren occurs over 200 times. And the word brother or brethren literally means from the same womb. So when we talk about the church, we are all ultimately from the same womb, are we not? Those that were baptized into Christ were baptized into his death. So as we all were baptized, if we've been baptized. Now, if we've not been baptized, if you have not been baptized for the forgiveness of your sins, you're not in that family. You're not of the same womb. So let's keep that in mind. All right, now we're to lesson 4. And this is devoted to one another, part dos. So back in Romans chapter 10, we already read that once. We're going to read it again because I do think that is probably one of the most important passages for us to remember. Romans chapter 12, verses 9 through 10. Love must be sincere. Doesn't say love can be sincere. Love should be. Maybe when you feel like it. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Verse 11, be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Honor one another above yourselves. All right, so I'm going to ask a question, and I don't want y'all to just throw answers out because, but you think about it in your mind. Can you think of someone from your past? Let's say at least a year ago. Think of a name from the past that was the epitome of being an encourager, an uplifter, or a motivator in the church, in the Lord's church. I mean, there's motivators out there on the internet and all that stuff for business. Think about within the Lord's church. Think of one name of someone that is the encourager, motivator, and uplifter for you. Now, think about within your congregation. We got a lot of folks traveling or visitors here today. We're glad y'all are here. Think about somebody in your congregation now that every time you see them, they're giving you encouragement. And they're going to go out of their way to give you encouragement. That they're going to reach out to you at times and give you encouragement. So, again, don't throw names out, but you have to have it in your mind. Somebody has to come to mind. Now I want you to really think. If I ask that question of all the folks in the congregation, would they think of you? If I ask that question to say, I want everybody to think of somebody that's going to motivate and encourage and make you feel good, does your name go into their mind? So maybe not. Maybe it is. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. The thing is, no matter what, we're always, the role we have is to encourage others because we're to be of one another. I mean, one another is mentioned. How many times we say in the New Testament? It was a lesson you covered. I forgot.
150 or
yeah, something like that. 150 times the phrase "one another" occurs, and so it's not about me; it's about us.
55.
55. Okay, 150 sounded better, but 55 is still substantial. That means it matters, even if it occurred one time. If it's in the scriptures, it matters. So let's ask the question: what does it mean when in Romans chapter 12 where it says, honor one another. Y'all give me some thoughts. What does that mean to honor one another? Miss Cecily?
Treat others with respect.
Respect's good. I like that.
You gotta try to look after them.
Look after them. Kind of care about them, right? Guess we gotta care.
You hit on it at the beginning, but honor. When I honor someone, I'm placing them above me, or I'm holding them maybe on a pedestal a little bit, or I'm thinking of them in a higher position.
Above yourself. I think that's an important thing. So, are y'all busy? Generally pretty busy? I know moms, y'all are always busy. Especially moms with little ones. When they get older now, that it's just more driving around, right, Stephanie? Chauffeuring. So Eric is still in the chasing phase, and Stephanie's now in the delivering phase, right? Yeah, mommy. That's exact. Mommy Uber. We need to start charging. So when we put somebody's needs above our own, we're going to make sure that we give time. I think time is the biggest thing that folks need. We're not talking about a lot of time. Sunday mornings, whenever we come here to worship, our worship starts at 9. It ends at 12. We got a couple of breaks in the middle there, and so let's say you get here at 10 till 9. Most folks don't. 10 till 9. Let's say, okay, yep. 10 till 9. That's 10 minutes between the worship hour. Then you get a break at 9:45 to 10. That's 15 minutes. Now we got 25 minutes. Then there's another break after class. We got 15 minutes. Now you also got to run to the restroom. You got to wrangle your kids. You got to do all this stuff. So instead of having 35 minutes ish, let's say you got more like 20 minutes. Because most folks are not going to get here at 10 till 9. They're going to get here at 9:01. I'm in the lobby, so I know. A lot of folks are here on time. That's good. So, but you got 25 minutes. Now, then the worship ends. Is there a time limit on how long you can talk to somebody? Although the deacons that are on charge of lockup, we are going to lock this building, or we're going to make sure you know the code so you can set the alarm. But I want to be honest with y'all, worship lets out at 12-ish. The alarm is never set here at the building until at least 1 o'clock. At least 1 o'clock. There's opportunity to invest something so important to others, and that's our time. It's just effort. It's just saying, hey, what's going on in your life? Not we all know, hey, how you doing?
I'm great.
Good. Awesome. It's so good to see you. All right, see you. Isn't that what you normally do? Well, a lot of folks do that. They said they were good. Were they really good? Are people just quick to say, oh my goodness, I'm struggling. I'm struggling with this. I've had this temptation that I'm dealing with. Are they likely to, Matt, you just met Alicia, right? Earlier. Introduce yourself. You know that? That's right. So this is Jessica, by the way. She was wrangling kids. So if you're struggling with something, Matt, and you just met Alicia and she says, how you doing? Are you going to tell her that you're struggling with something? No, probably not. Because you don't know Alicia. I'm sure she's really good. She is good, by the way. She's good. But you don't know her. You don't have that relationship. How do you build relationship? Time. Investment. Maybe there's something else you can find out that you talk about. Like if you talk more to her, she'd say, oh, she's here from Dallas. And you're like, oh, my goodness, my best friend lives in Dallas. Blah, 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 blah. And then we go, oh, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. Sorry. There's so many things that lead us. She's not. There are things that lead us to connection. Now look, if you're really trying to talk to somebody, but you cannot make a connection, and y'all know folks like that, right? No matter how hard you try, you can't find something that you connect on, right? What's one thing we always connect on? Christ and God. No matter what. No matter what, there's always something that we connect on. And so it just takes a little bit of time. All right, so let's look over. We read this. Oh, go ahead, Erica.
I was just thinking, I think sometimes it also takes courage because we're scared to ask those hard questions like, how are you doing spiritually? Or what can I pray for you? Right, you know? And sometimes they just need to be asked. And if they don't want to volunteer, they won't volunteer. But, you know, that's really the main thing we should be talking about.
I mean, that's like next level devoted, and we struggle to be vulnerable even with the people that we are close to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you do that to the person you just met, but
I see Miss Nancy in here. So,
yeah.
Her precious and loving husband, Chuck, that was his question all the time. How are you doing in your spiritual walk? How are you doing in your spiritual life? Man, sometimes that'll make you really think. You can be like, oh, I'm doing really good. You know, man, it's Sunday morning, I'm glad to see all y'all. And then somebody says, how are you doing in your spiritual walk? It's like, I've really been struggling. Jake, go ahead.
Like you said, not everybody is comfortable talking, especially face to face with someone or even over the phone. But you know, how powerful is a letter that you write to someone, or especially whenever you receive a letter? I mean, especially nowadays, that's almost the most important thing you can receive versus actually than talking face to face with someone. And, or even, you know, there's an 82-year-old woman at our congregation, and in her free time, she colors like little color pencil pictures, and she'll hand it to you or hand it to everyone she wrote that or colored that for. And something little like that is just to know someone's thinking of you. So if you aren't comfortable talking face to face with someone, you know, you can still have an impact if you just, you know, put that effort and time in to do something like that.
It's amazing what small things have great impacts. I have handwritten letters and handwritten cards at home that I received 20 years ago from either a shepherd or one of the kids in the 5th grade class. You know, it's amazing that encouragement comes in all forms.
But it's hard though. I mean, like I'm so mad at myself for how many times I'm going to write that person a letter and I never do it. I mean, it takes time because you got to think about it and you got to sit down and write it. But it's worth it to do it.
Brian was talking. I think it was you were talking about the guy that would come home on Sunday afternoons, and he would devote his Sunday afternoon to calling people that were not at the services that day. Every Sunday, that's his thing. And when they answered the phone, there was no time limit on the phone call. Oh, hey, look, I got to let you go. I got to call Johnny and Sue because they weren't there too. And you know, look, I only got 5 minutes for you. He said that guy would sit there and talk for as long as that person wanted to talk on the phone. And because look, if that person wasn't at the worship services that day, did they have any interaction with a Christian brother or sister? No, they didn't. They may have streamed it online. Was there any uplifting from the body of Christ? I love that we have the ability to have the online. I love it. But that is not the church coming together.
You know, when we say it takes time, we don't mean just like, I mean, what Jake was saying is correct. It takes time to, you know, 30 minutes or whatever to write this letter. But also, look at it from this standpoint. It takes time to develop a relationship. length of time. In other words, if you're not coming to services, or getting out so quick, there's no chance for you to develop that relationship, because it takes time, and multiple times you're together. And as you more and more get comfortable, then you get to what Erica was asking. You get to where you can get some of those awkward conversations. That takes time. That is not going to happen immediately. A period of time.
There's been times that I have, like, when I can tell, I can tell that we're getting about to the end of the lesson. I'm like, I got to go to the back door right now, because as soon as the singing starts, the walking starts too. Y'all don't see it normally, because you're looking at the screens trying to read the words and everything like that. You're singing and you're thinking about the lesson, and 4, 5, 6, normally 6 people are going to leave during the invitation song. Members. And they didn't get here in time to talk before the services. They come in late, they leave early. I don't know why, but I'm trying to I intercept. Now, they don't want to talk, but they all get a hug. Let me ask you a question. How much does a hug say? Y'all know I'm a hugger, right? You don't know I'm a hugger? Just wait. I want to tell you what.
Down the road.
I want to tell you this. If you don't know what a hug means, this means I love you. I don't have to say a word, but a hug. You think about whenever we've had folks that are sick, or folks that are that have lost their mother, their father, their brother, whatever. They've suffered death. Words mess things up. What do I say at a funeral? What do I say to someone that lost her husband, or someone that lost his wife? What do I say to somebody that lost their child? Folks used to ask me that all the time when I was at the funeral home. They're like, what should I say? I'm fixing to go up there and see them at the casket. Their child's laying right there in the casket. What do I say? Nothing. What do? You hug their neck, and you squeeze, and you love. Because that's what love is. Love says, I'm there for you right now. There's no magic bullet. I don't say that word. There's no magic words that take pain away. There's love. Yes, ma'am.
I will say, I think one of the main reasons why people have a hard time reaching out and keeping up with each other is because the enemy tries to load us up with so many distractions in this world. We're not trying to be selfish. We're not trying to be self-absorbed, but he tries to fill your plate up so thick and heavy that you don't have time to give any encouragement or a hug or whatever to anyone else, because you're always jumping from one thing to the next. And so it may be a good idea to just kind of reevaluate your situation. And there was a really good, y'all know I'm from the mental health field, but there's a really good podcast I was listening to the other day, and this guy, the psychiatrist, was saying, imagine this big jar, and there's three different elements that are in this jar. The big, gigantic rocks in it represent the most important things in your life. Your relationship with God, other Christians, your family, maybe your job and how much you put into that. And around the gigantic rocks are pebbles. So those are more like the other half of your job, or friendships or close acquaintances. And then the rest of it is sand. And whatever that sand is what you don't need to be given a lot of focus to, or let it eat up your energy. The sand could be, acquaintances at work, or gossip, or any type of troubles that you're going through, or just, materialism, things like that. And so it's almost like we have to make sure that our brothers and sisters are those big rocks that are taking up space, and we have to clear our plate of some things so that we can give more of ourselves.
That's good. Has anybody seen that on like online or before? I hope you have, because the visual of it is amazing. Because you take the big things, and the things that are they're not negotiables. Our family, our church, serving God, putting Him first. Those are the big rocks, and if they don't go in the jar first, they'll never get in there. Because once you put the sand in and you put the pebbles in, the rocks are stuck on top. But if you put the rocks in first, then the pebbles, and you're pouring the sand and you shake it around, and the sand falls down around the big rocks. But they're already in there, and it fills up all the time. And then even more, I heard it at the end. That you think, oh, I don't have any more time, and you can pour water in there.
That's a good one.
So always think about that.
And that water absorbs the sand. But like I said, the enemy just tries to find so many ways to keep you overloaded so that you cannot spend time doing the things that you need to concentrate on.
Yeah, and so and also you think about what our time that we're in now. We're a connected age. I mean, look, I can find anything out I want. I can ask Siri. I can Google it, Alexa, whatever. I can get answers to any question, and I can find anything. And we're tied to these devices. We're tied to these things, and sometimes though they can be good if we're using it for good things, like making a phone call to somebody that hasn't been at services in a few weeks. Sending that text message of encouragement to somebody you haven't seen, or somebody you're trying to get to know better. Kurt, you had your hand up.
Sometimes you'll get a weekly report on how much time you've spent on one of those devices. Usually maybe a Saturday night late or Sunday morning. It's eye-opening sometimes. Last week you spent 4 hours and 45 minutes looking at that thing. Wow, what could I have done with that other time? We're addicted to them.
Yes, we are.
And we're dependent on them sometimes.
It also breaks down by category.
I still can't read a book. I don't like reading a book on these. I like to give me the hard copy, because I'm one of those to make notes and highlights, especially with sports or baseball or what have you. It's just me. I can't go all over that thing on a phone or whatever.
You want to turn a page and hear it.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
It breaks it down by category if you look, so you can really see where your time is going on your phone.
Yeah, which apps you use
We can have a
more?
Bible app. We can use a text message. We can make a phone call. But a lot of times, it's a browser or a social media.
Yeah.
You can share that report, like you can send it to somebody, which, I mean, if you're not going to change anything about it if nobody knows how much you're looking at.
Accountability partner.
Yeah.
You can also put a time limit, like on your social media. You'd be surprised how fast you get to an hour in a day. They'll tell you to get off.
Are we willing to sacrifice something that we want? I don't. That's a good point. So if we have unfettered access and unfettered time to give to something, what if we try? Put a time limit on. That's a little test for the week. I can try that myself. Put a little test on there and see if you can time it out after one day. And then what are you going to do with your time? And we can always read the scriptures and study, but you can also use that time to be contacting, reaching out, getting to know each other a little bit better. Not necessarily calling the person you always talk to. Call somebody new. What does that hurt, right? Anyway, just the thing.
Things like social media, has gotten rid of all pure communication altogether, because we can keep up with everybody's stuff online, that when you get together, there's nothing to talk about because they've already heard about it. They've already seen that, and so the best button on your phone is just delete it. So you have things to talk about with other people.
And Facebook always, and look, I mean, Facebook, all that, whatever they are, X, Z, whatever, I don't do it. That's the perfect picture of how my life really is, right? What you see on my Facebook is my life, right? A perfect family. but they're perfectly combed hair, and there's no dirt on their faces, and their clothes are not dirty. And no, that picture took 15 takes, and a lot of screaming. Stop, smile. Oh, is that reality? But that's what we see. So sometimes we've got to make sure that we see beyond that.
Distractions.
We got to see beyond that. We've got to see beyond that. And just because we see happiness and all that stuff on Facebook doesn't mean that they're not struggling with the worst thing in their life right now. How do we know? I mean, just because I read your Facebook post doesn't mean I know you. I liked I loved your image. I did my part. I encouraged my brother today. It sounds foolish, doesn't it? Because it is foolish. Yes, ma'am.
Well, and I've caught myself. I realize I'll be thinking ahead and thinking of, oh, I could get a picture here to post, and I'm like, I gotta stop that. Like, I just gotta be in the moment and focus on the people. I'm like, okay, maybe my hair doesn't look perfect when I'm going to this party, but who cares? I'm gonna go talk to these people and be around them. So I think we need to be a little. I've been trying to catch myself more often with that. It's not all about that. It's nice to have pictures, to have memories, but not everything has to be perfect.
So back in Romans chapter 12, we focused on verses 9 and 10, but remember we talked a few weeks ago about the bees. These are things that we are to be as Christians, and they're found right after that, starting in verse 11. Never be lacking in zeal. Be, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with God's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. I mean, all these things. Does it say, if you feel like it, be hospitable? I mean, if you like somebody, be nice to them. If you got stuff in common, be friends with them. It doesn't say that. These are the things that it says we are to be. Now, before that, there were the ifs, and we had talked about that, which was the verses before verses 9. That was verses 6 through 8. And it was, if you have this, and if you have this, if you have the ability to teach, and if you have the ability to preach, and not everybody has that, right? Those were the ifs. These are the be's. Who we are to be as Christians. So we have to make effort. So a couple of things before we move on to the next thing. We talked pretty good. I like that. It's hard to put the needs of others above ourselves. It takes effort, and we've got to be conscious. And we're not talking about giving a lot of time. Just start small. Start small, and it's amazing how things will grow over time. It's hard not to be selfish. At the heart of sin is what? Selfishness. Every sin is really selfishness. It's putting our needs above what God wants us to do. And it's hard. It's hard to do these things. But one thing it's easy to be is kind. It's easy to be kind. This is a starting point. A simple word, a smile, a hug, just sitting with somebody. How can we love somebody if we don't know their name? We go back to verse 9, chapter 12. Love must be what? Sincere. That means you got to mean it, right? We're not talking about fake it till you make it. We got to think. Every person in here, I love you. I really, truly love you. And I would truly do anything for you. I hope that y'all will do the same for me. That if I'm in need, you're going to be there. In your way. It may not be that you're at my doorstep, you know, I mean, it might be that you're sending me a card. It might be that you're sending me a text message. It might be that you're making a phone call. But it also might be that you're showing up at my doorstep, bringing me dinner, crying with me, praying with me. What do we need more than anything whenever we're going through struggles? Christ. We need love. And how do we know each other? Unless we talk to each other. Once we talk to each other, we start to know each other, and then we can share each other's burdens. Otherwise, we're just walking through life. You know, hey, it's great to see you, man. It's great to see you too. How you doing? I'm doing good. Great, man. Did my duty. No, you didn't. Am I guilty of that? Absolutely. Have I seen folks that I could tell? You know, you can sometimes see folks and you can tell something's bothering them. Something's not quite right. Man, I know I can tell that something's bothering Seth, but man, every time I talk to him, it's gonna be 10 minutes talking. I don't have much time. I gotta get to Popeye's chicken. It's time for lunch. Seth does not talk that much, if you're wondering. Sometimes you gotta drag it out. The girl's talking about football now. He can talk football. Sometimes we gotta put if we voiced out loud sometimes the arguments we make in our heads, we would say, how stupid is that? I can't go up and talk to them because I don't know their name. Let me tell you something. If y'all go in this hallway over here, there's on the wall, there are pictures, family pictures of everybody in this congregation. If you don't know their name, go find it. Or come ask me. Say, hey, I can't remember what's their name. Ryan Goodwin. He's the preacher. Oh, look. Oh, that's funny. Made myself laugh. Y'all, it's about knowing each other. Start small, work your way up, build connections, build trust. Give honor to each other. Ultimately, this is about honoring each other. When we give time and of ourselves, we're given honor. Let's look at an example in Luke chapter 19. Luke chapter 19, verses 1 through 10. Zacchaeus was a wee little man was. Y'all remember that story, right? He climbed up in a sycamore tree, the Savior was to see. All right. The story of Zacchaeus. And you know, and we just think of Zacchaeus as a little man. I mean, that's not the story. So, chapter 19, verses 1 through 10. Matthew, you want to read that? Thanks.
Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through, and there was a man called by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector, and he was rich. Zacchaeus was trying to see who Jesus was, and he was unable due to the crowd, because he was short in stature. So he ran on ahead and climbed up a sycamore tree in order to see him, because he was about to pass through that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for today I must stay at your house. And he hurried and came down and received him joyfully. When the people saw this, they all began to complain, saying, he has gone to be the guest of a man who is a sinner. But Zacchaeus stopped and said to the Lord, behold, Lord, half of my possessions I am giving to the poor, and if I have extorted anything from anyone, I am giving back 4 times as much. And Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, because he too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man has come to seek and save that which was lost.
So, thank you, Matthew. So we think of Zacchaeus, and most of the time when the name Zacchaeus comes up, it's just, he's a wee little man. I think about, what's the real part of this story? What's the most important part of this story?
Change of heart.
He was saved.
Change of behavior.
His change of behavior, he said saved.
He felt remorse for the way he had treated people. You know, tax collectors would look at guys that were just jerk stealing, and you know, he says, you know, I will give half my possessions to the poor, and I will give back 4 times as much to others. And so, like, that change of heart and behavior.
So let's think about what changed his heart. What changed his behavior?
The Lord did. God did.
Well, see, he already believed in Jesus, didn't he? Because he was going after Jesus. I mean, Jesus is in town. He's preaching. I mean, one night only, and I'm gonna be there. I got to find a spot. I can't find a spot. So what did he do? He climbs up in this tree so he can see Jesus. So he knew something was different about Jesus, but he went and did something about it. So we know that he believed in Jesus. What created the change in Zacchaeus?
I think it was the Lord noticing him.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
It was the Lord noticing him and calling him out, calling on him, I guess.
The Lord noticed the smallest person, insignificant little Zacchaeus. He's a sinner. Oh, how dare you associate with him? And the folks were talking about it. But Jesus recognized him. Jesus said, Zacchaeus, come down. I'm going to go to your house today. Man, that gave him honor. Jesus gave something, it cost him nothing, but it meant so much. All it cost him was a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, but it changed Zacchaeus' life forever. Do you think that we have the same opportunity to change people's lives? I believe we do. I believe that we all have problems. I believe we all have struggles of something in our lives. Doesn't matter. I mean, we don't have to stand up and say, I'm struggling with this, that, and the other. We all struggling with something.
Well, Jesus he looked up to see him. He wasn't on his phone looking down.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a really good point. All of us have got something in our lives that is difficult, hard, a struggle, a temptation, family struggle, marriage, because marriage is so easy, right? It's amazing what giving honor to someone, how that's going to create. It's going to help us become closer to each other. Give our time, give our effort, have a conversation, get to know each other. Now that doesn't mean that if I just start talking to Matthew, I'm going to give Matthew my time. I'm going to honor Matthew. I mean, he's not going to tell me what he's struggling with today. But if I give honor to Matthew every time I see him, and I respect him, and I care about him, over time we're going to build connection. We're going to build trust. And that's the same thing with all of us. We can't expect that I can just walk up to a random person and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, this, and this. We're like, whoa, man, that's a little heavy for that. You know, I just met you. What was your name again? It's about connection and relationship, y'all. And we're going to pick up here Wednesday night. And I appreciate all your comments this morning. Meet somebody else today that you don't know.
Thank you.
No, he's still right here.
And that's still the same thing, is not, they may not feel it.
It's called motivating.
There you go.